Hey there, Jody asked me to make a short video about birth, and that was the only direction that she gave me was talk about birth, about normal birth. So I'm just going to start talking and we'll see where we go. I love birth. I have loved birth for about 23 years now, 24 years now. And the things that I love about birth are that it requires us to be very in control of some things and very not in control of others. I think that most people are not super comfortable with that concept, but I really love it because what I can do is be really clear about the things that are in my control and really control them well, and then completely take my hands off the wheel about the other things. And then no matter how it goes, I know that I've done what I can do, and I can let go of the rest fully and say it was just one of those things. This is just something that I was dealt. It wasn't the cards I would have wanted dealt to me, but this is what I got, and I did the best that I could with it in the moment. So I love that about birth. I love that birth is very round. It's so feminine, and it does not like to be watched really, and it doesn't like to be controlled, right? Again, back to that concept of taking your hands off the wheel after you've done your part. It likes the dark, and it likes juices, and it likes warm water, and it likes support without being right in your face most of the time. I love those things. I love that it mostly happens at night when it's left to its own devices, because our hormones are so flowy and softer at night, and because if we have other babies or other responsibilities, those things are tucked into bed for the night at that point. And yeah, I just have so many wonderful memories of sitting quietly on my knees, watching someone go through this very round process of just allowing, surrendering to their body's processes. And that, you know, that is a big piece of this. Is we live in such a masculine society that we approach our bodily processes as if they should just work. Like, just do the thing. I have things to do, just do the thing. Constipation is in some part due to just trying to hurry it up and do it in a timely way so we can get on with our lives, right? And I feel the same way about birth. Birth doesn't like to be hurried, and she's going to take as much time as she wants to take. And even if you try to force her with an induction or with curb walking, because every time you stop curb walking they slow down, and you're like, I don't want it to stop, I want to have this baby. And I'm always like, why do you want to hurry the process? Just leave her alone, let her find her own way. So those memories sew in for me in a very visceral way. Trust in the process. When we trust the process, it usually goes really boringly normal. And it's just a bunch of contractions and watching the woman go through the process of surrendering to that. And then there's a baby. Like, that's the way that it mostly works, when we support the woman's body with what it needs and then take our hands off and let the process go. So it's a very different approach than the Western approach, which has not been around for very long. A couple hundred years at most, not even really, maybe 100, the way it is now. And they try to control it, and it freaks them out that they can't control it. And they want to be able to quantify everything, and they want to have it fit into a grid and take notes on it. And they do the same thing to babies, which I also don't love, because babies are also very organic and round. They like cycles, not checklists. So yeah, trying to stuff, trying to stuff a very round feminine process into a square masculine model, it really doesn't work. It bites back, and you end up with very, very long inductions, and people feeling like their bodies failed them, or worse, feeling like they were done to, and that they weren't really part of the process. They were just kind of like there. Their body was there, but they weren't really a big part of what was happening. And that just feels like, yes, of course, traumatic, but also just such a loss. I get really sad when I hear people's birth stories, and the feeling that washes off of them is they were absent. They didn't really experience the full transformative power that's inherent to that process if it's supported and left alone. So I had a phrase that I use when I think about how I parented my children, and it's loving negligence, right? It's a lot of attention to what the space is like and what the available things to play with are, and making sure that they feel very loved and have complete accessibility to me. And then once they're engaged, to take my hands off and let them do it their way and explore and play and mess things up and get it real dirty. And I feel the same way about birth, that a lot of attention up front during the months of pregnancy, and making sure that all of those T's are crossed and all of those I's are dotted. And then the negligence, the sitting back and assuming that it's going to go well, watching carefully to make sure that it is staying normal. If it starts to veer out of normal, getting it back into normal again if you can, and then letting it keep going. And if it veers well out of normal, then we start looking at other things to support. We need bigger support than loving negligence at that point. But going in order like that, where you start with loving negligence and assuming that things will go normal and boring, and then stepping it up to zhuzh it back into place as needed. And when that no longer works, then stepping up into a bigger support is really the way that birth works best. So not sure how you're going to apply that type of thinking to the process that you're in the middle of, but I would leave you with this, that there are so many hard and negative stories that are told. All of us know people or have friends or family that have had very hard births. And Jody and I both have this experience where people tell us their birth stories and they're like, well, thank God I was in the hospital. Because, man, well, what if I hadn't been there? And in our heads, we're going, yeah, but would that have even gotten to that point if you had had different care, right? So I would say, to counteract all of those hard stories that we all hear a lot of and see in the media a lot, I would spend a little time curating a collection of birth stories that are normal and boring. And you start to see the power and the beauty that is inherent to that process. So I would type in the words normal home water birth, or beautiful physiologic hospital birth, or birth center birth with midwives, things like that. So if you type those in and you pick and choose some stories that are really normal and boring, and you just watch them over and over and over, they start to sow into you what I have sown into me after all of these well over 1,000 births. That helps me believe in the process. And I want that for you.